Hi, this is Emily, Booknote Literary Services, here to tell you all about Agatha Christie's And Then There Were None. I just finished reading this for the second time, and as a literary consultant who provides editorial services for authors in the genres of crime drama, suspense, mystery, thriller, detective noir, this is a very, very excellent archetype example of how the modern day mystery should be structured. Give or take some tweaks, but the history and background of this book is fascinating. And of course, Agatha Christie is one of the most top well-known mystery writers of all time. And Then There Were None. It has sold over 100 million copies. It was published in 1939 based on the British blackface song. The original title, which was very offensive, was called 10 Little something that starts with an N that represents African Americans that I can't say. And it was based on this British blackface song, which was about 10 little of these. And then when the book was picked up in 1940 by the US, the title was changed to And Then There Were None. And in the book, it refers to 10 Little Soldiers, a poem. In the black and white movie from the 1940s, it refers to 10 Little Indians. Between I think it was maybe the 1960s and 80s, pocketbooks did a version called 10 Little Indians. So, there's been a few tweaking here and there, but the premise is that there are, well, let me tell you a little bit about the book. So there's this sort of creepy island called Soldier Island, and a sort of gothic house. And these 10 different characters, I believe it's 10, they get invited through private invitation to be guests on this island like a weekend getaway, not knowing really who's sending it. They're trying to figure it out, but they're not sure. All these characters take a boat to get to the island, and they arrive in the house, and the host isn't there. There's a butler and a maid, but no host. And so it's kind of mysterious. And during their first mingling dinner that night, wondering if the host is going to show up, there's a gramophone that plays a recording into the air that accuses each guest of a previous crime, basically a murder that they were acquitted of in court. For some it was an accident, for some it was just due to being in the military. There is a lot of history behind each of the accused crimes, and they don't know where the recording came from. They find a gramophone playing, they don't know who put it on. So basically in the book, characters start dying off amongst them. And every time a character dies, a little figurine, a soldier, goes missing from the rooms that they're in until there are none left, which is similar to the 10 Little Indians or where the original title of the book came from. And so the guests start to assume that it must be one of them killing everybody off. And so as people start dying, they start to look at each other. So who could be doing it? When I read this book, it reminded me, I felt like I was in the middle of playing the Clue board game. It was a lot like that, very Sherlock Holmes-ish. And so eventually it gets down to only a few people, and eventually down to 2 people. And so, of course, those 2 characters have to assume one of them is the killer. So, it's survival of the fittest, right? And of course, in the end, everybody's wrong. It's all a master brilliant plan that was set up by the person who did it, which I won't give away. So what I love about her writing that I want you, if you're a suspense mystery or thriller writer, is to, or even actually any kind of a writer, if you have a lot of characters in your book. So, readers don't have audio and visual as if they were watching a movie to see and hear each character at the beginning of a movie to kind of get it straight in their head, who is who. So in a book, it's just words on a page. And if you have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 characters popping into your first few chapters, it's really hard to keep that straight. I've read books where I'm into the 3rd chapter, a few people are floating about. I have to look back and who is this person again? And who is that person again? What I love about Agatha Christie is she does an excellent, phenomenal job of introducing each character in a way that makes it where you cannot get them confused. So there are 10 characters, and she introduces them each on their way traveling to the island in a quick little blurb. A quick, short, snappy little blurb. So for example, you'll see here, number 2, introduce a character on a train. Very next page, number 3, we have a character driving a car to the island or to a boat. We have this one, somebody on another train. Oh, that came by carriage. So anyway, so what's interesting though is each character is so unique. There's no way you could get them confused. You have a 65-year-old man, a general retired from the army. You have an old woman, hardcore, stern, rough, and frightening, whose father was a commander in the military that doesn't tolerate messy business. Only one young, beautiful young woman who was a nanny. There's a man from South Africa. There's a man, a middle-aged doctor, sort of womanizer that would trick women to get them to fall in love with him. So you really can't get them confused. And what I think is brilliant, so after the introduction chapter, showing them traveling to the island with each one unique, once they're all together in the room in the next chapter, Agatha reintroduces them through the eyes of one character who's summing them up, and she puts it all together, and now it's really clear in your head who is who. So let me read this. He summed it up. One old maid, the sour kind, he knew them well enough. She was a Tartar, he could bet. Oh, an old military gentleman, a real army look about him. Oh, and a nice-looking young lady, but that ordinary kind, not the glamorous Hollywood type. The bluffy, cheery gent, he was puffy, but a real gentleman. And a retired tradesman, now that's what he thought should be a man from South Africa. Then there was the man with the lean, hungry, queer eyes. So, you know, by then, we've already read about each character individually, but now, you know, it's pulled together nicely, and I really like that about her. So I definitely recommend, if you're a mystery writer, studying this book. So what is funny about this book is it's very dry, as far as it's a little wry and a little ironic. And by the way, this book was recently featured on the PBS The Great American Read as the top 100 books of all time. And you can go to their website and check that out, and you can even vote for your favorite book. But what's funny is modern day characters should have some emotional backbone, even the villains. There should be some more development. What's funny is when all the characters are dropping off in this book, the remaining characters around them don't really have reactions. They don't freak out, they don't faint, they don't get scared, they don't show emotion or fear or disgust. It's like someone drops off and everyone looks at each other and, by George, we have another dead body. And then they jump right into Sherlock Holmes. Now this one, her lips are blue. Could it have been the arsenic this time? Or oh, I see a mark on her neck. I think it was a rope. But then they start just discussing. So the book puts no focus on the murders and the reactions. The book is entirely on the suspense of who is going to drop dead next. And so by not putting any focus on the bodies or the murders, even though it's kind of funny and a little, like, you can tell that that's missing and it's almost humorous, it's all about the suspenses. Am I going to be next? Are you going to be next? I think, you know, they're all looking at each other wondering who could be doing it. It could be the doctor. He has medicines. It could be the military guy. He knows how to kill people. So it's a little funny. And then eventually, and as everybody dies off, what's funny is they just take the bodies and they put them up in the guest rooms on their beds and leave them there. They don't go out and bury them. They don't remove the bodies from the house and then, oh, it's time to have a snack. Let's open a can of tongue, you know, and then they're all sitting there eating and knitting after that someone just dropped dead and they put the body on a bed. And so by the end of the book, there are these rotting bodies all through the house and no one is disturbed by it, or the remaining person isn't disturbed by it. So it's a little funny. Check out Agatha Christie's And Then There Were None. Fun, snappy, quick, witty, a little bit humorous. I don't recommend watching the movie because the movie is boring and you'll therefore not want to read the book. If you want to watch the movie or the show, watch it after you read the book. Thanks for watching, everybody.